Walking downhill shouldn't feel like a leap of faith. While mechanical knees often resist you, the key to microprocessors is how you engage with them as the user. In this video, we're breaking down the biomechanics of yielding and controlled descent so that you can better engage with your device, turning yielding into one of your favorite mobility tools in the tool bag. Stance phase yielding, or yielding as we're calling it in this video, and as I refer to it in all my videos, is really the controlled knee flexion needed to acquire shock absorption at heel strike and all of that eccentric loading that you are doing when you are moving dynamically throughout your everyday life. Yielding looks a lot of different ways, as we're going to get into in this video, but really it starts with walking, and we will start with walking and how you can use yielding to walk and get that shock absorption at your hip so that you can feel more comfortable in your lower back as you're getting around. We'll also break down the mechanics of yielding down steep inclines and down stairs, and also sitting, because all of these movements are the same foundation building blocks with little tweaks to get the knee to operate in just a little bit of a different way and give you comfort when you're going through all of these different movements. Of course, we're going to get into the differences of knees in this video and how hydraulics and MPKs as a whole can only support you up to a certain amount of flexion. Once you reach a certain flexion angle, they can't support you anymore. Now, as we're going to break down, the Oser knees are better at supporting you longer because they are not a hydraulic design, they are a rotary design. But there are always going to be limitations to passive devices and how those devices assist you in your everyday. We also get into some power devices, which are assisting you more than passive devices, but still have a lot of limitations. So that's just something to be aware of as we get into breaking down yielding. First movement of yielding is, to me, stance knee flexion. And I talk a lot about stance knee flexion, but a little bit of background and my history on it is that I walked with a knee, a plie 3, that didn't have stance knee flexion for a decade. And, I'm fortunate to work on a lot of different projects. And you can see here on X3, I'm just getting a little bit of stance knee flexion, feeling comfortable and getting shock absorption. But for a long time, those projects didn't include stance knee flexion because myself and the team that was working on it, like, we weren't educated on stance knee flexion, and I wasn't a believer in it. And then, I started getting involved with Autobach and with these bigger companies like Oser and those guys, and the more that I learned how about stance knee flexion and how to use it, the better my body started to feel. And that's really what's made me become a big believer in it. And so here we're going to break it down a little bit and how to get into it. So right here, we're going to be on the Oser Navi. We're starting this heel strike, and you can see as I get into it, I still am landing with full extension. So I am getting a good firm heel strike. And then it's just quick transition as I start to weight shift over, my hip stays flexed, and then that allows me to kind of push the knee and load the knee up a little bit and start to kind of force it to bend some. And I'm not really forcing it to bend at all. I'm just not forcing it to extend either. I'm just staying flexed right where my hip is at, right where that dot is at, and just kind of shifting my weight instead of pushing back and extending. And so, like, as I'm getting that weight shift, and soon I'll, take my other foot off the ground and shift my weight fully over. And now I'm starting to extend my hip over once my foot and knee shank are straight up and down with the ground. And then I can start to really push over and push my hip back like that last arrow was just showing. But you just want to wait to do that longer. And, when I was learning to walk at first, it's like you want to initiate with the ground and push back as hard as you can, because that will keep you safe. That will keep the knee locked out, which is true, especially on mechanical knees or on any knee. That will always keep you safe. But to walk with stance knee flexion and get that shock absorption at your hip, this is how you walk with that to feel more comfortable and not get that lower back pain and have to be always like kind of circumducting or lifting up that hip just a little bit or doing a lot of pelvis tilt and different things like that to overcompensate. This helps you get obvious clearance, and here I am getting it on Intui Pro, and Intui Pro obviously has motors in it. It's just helping you extend, and when you land flex, those motors basically locked, so it's a little bit of a safer feeling. On some of these microprocessors, it can feel like you're going to not have the support that you need because, again, if you're coming off a mechanical knee, that's typically an unsafe position to be in. But in these power knees especially, we have Intui Pro in here and the Oser Power Knee. They really can hold you at most angles, and so walking with those motors feels really comfortable. And then here's the original C leg, so I'm walking without stance knee flexion, just really landing at a firm heel strike and pushing my hip back quick. And as I'm starting to ease into it a little bit more, I'm feeling more comfortable. I'm starting to get more stance knee flexion and again get that shock absorption at my hip. So that's really just staying flexed at your hip a little bit longer throughout the gait cycle. Instead of pushing back initially, it's just staying flexed and waiting to start pushing back until you are a little bit further on in the gait cycle. Now we're on to yielding down inclines, and so we've got a little bit of a refresh from the Sea Leg 4 review a few weeks ago. Go check that out if you haven't seen it. Sea Leg is the king of yielding. So again, I'm getting a firm heel strike. Everything is staying extended when my foot initially touches the ground, but my center of gravity is staying behind the knee center. And then as I start to push and load up the knee, again, my weight line right there, my knee center, my hip is staying behind the knee center, and I'm going to kind of drop my weight down by lifting this foot off the ground and just kind of sinking into the knee rather than extending it. And as I start to sink, I'm going to push that knee forward just a little bit, kind of shift my weight forward as I'm going down, and then try to stay there as long as I can and let that hydraulic support me as long as it can until my other foot touches the ground and makes good contact and I can transition into the next step. And so it's really, this is the function to do downstairs that we're going to get into and everything else. But you really just want to make sure now here at the beginning of the step that you flick it out. I like to get a high step and kind of make sure that I can see it in front of me, give me that confidence so that I know where it's at as I get that firm heel strike. And then here on a more shallow ramp, I'm doing the same motions, I'm doing the same movements, I'm keeping my weight center behind the knee center, and then I'm kind of loading the knee and dropping my weight down. But as you're on shallower ramps, you can do it just more minimal and more subtly, and then that helps you feel more comfortable and transition over onto your sound limb or onto your other limb and do it in a smooth, natural rhythm. And these still aren't like as great as your sound limb could be. On this knee, I'm now transferred over to the neuro knee, and so this is a pretty steep hill. But again, I'm just getting that foot out in front of me and then keeping my weight line behind me, driving my weight through the heel. And now we're on the power knee, and it's the same movements all on the power knee as well. And now those motors are resisting me, so I'm just kind of actively pushing those motors and riding them. But this is a very steep incline, and to be able to rely on those motors and have it support me down without the foot slipping either, shout out Tara, like this is pretty impressive. I still am like kind of surprised at how well power knee did at supporting me going down this. If you saw the power knee review, you saw that going up this incline maybe wasn't the best, but you could probably say that for every knee in this video. And Navi coming up next really is probably not demonstrated the best in this little section, but it is the best, I think, at kind of yielding in all of the knees that we have in this breakdown. I don't have X4 in this breakdown, and X4 is probably the very tippy top of the iceberg as far as yielding goes. At the end, we're going to give some yielding ratings, and it would have the highest yielding rating. It does have the highest yielding rating. It's just not in this video, but now we're going to transition into stairs, and it's basically those same movements again. Right here, we're on Navi, and I like Navi because it is a different type of system. It isn't hydraulic, it has a rotary design and uses a certain type of fluid that has iron in it. So it's a whole different thing. Go check out the Navi video if you want that breakdown, but it supports you longer. So here again, just like if we were coming down inclines, I am getting a firm heel strike and staying locked out. And then as I transition, one thing to note is that you have to have on microprocessors your foot halfway off the stair so that you can transition over. And then as I start to shift my weight forward, I'm obviously collapsing that knee and dropping my weight down, keeping my center of mass behind the knee center, just like I would be doing on ramps. But the biggest thing is that I have my foot halfway off the stair so that I can ride over that and the foot doesn't stop the knee and start giving the knee resistance that it wants to fight against. Here we're on Intui Pro, and again, Intui Pro is a power knee. And one cool feature that it has is that you can put your whole foot on the stair as you come down. So right here, you see my whole foot is on the stair. And as we transition to the next one, you can start to see that Intui Pro does a really good job at flexing for you. So right there, it's starting to flex before I've really engaged the movement. And so that's what allows that extra bit of flexion to transition over the stair with my full foot on the stair compared to how it will be on how it just was on Navi and how it will be on some of the knees like Neuro here. Again, foot half on the stair because it's not doing any pre-flexing like Intui Pro was. And so that's one cool feature of Intui Pro. And right here on Quattro, I am actually wearing a hydraulic ankle. So in theory, I don't do it in this video because I'm talking and doing a breakdown. Go check out my Quattro series, but it's you could technically put your full foot on the stair there. And now we're just going to get into sitting, and sitting is again all these same movements built off the same kind of base foundation. And so here we're on Intui Pro, and Intui Pro is really good at sit to stands. I actually really like it because you have motors assisting you up, and we're going to go through sitting down here. So again, firm heel strike, and I kind of am drawing a weight straight through the heel, keeping my weight line behind the knee center again, just and starting, as I'm sitting, I'm already pushing my hips back and starting to sit. And so that's the same movement on here on neuro and everything else so that you can feel comfortable and ride those hydraulics. Now we're starting to get into what I would call advanced yielding. So this is also power knee. And so on power knee, you have resistance anytime that you're weighting it. So when I was really wearing it a lot, I started doing what I called hezi steps here. And so it's just a way where, you can kind of hesitate while you are on your prosthetic, and it will support you, and you can, pivot and do different things like that, which is really cool. Navi does this pretty well too. And so does my X3 to some extent, not as well as these two. But then, on Intui Pro, you can just be actively resisting you and getting relaxed standing, different things like that. All of these knees have a stance lock function to some extent, and so I would classify that as an advanced yielding. Just ways to be comfortable is what yielding adds. Here's neuro with that stance flexion lock, and so a lot of cool knees and a lot of cool features for yielding. That was a great breakdown on how to initiate yielding on a lot of these different knees in a lot of different scenarios. You've got your regular walking and getting that stance knee flexion. You've got your yielding down ramps on C leg and feeling really comfortable there. And then you've got coming downstairs on Navi, which Navi really excels at. And sitting on all of these knees is very comfortable. So let's take a real quick look at these knees and some highlights of their yielding features. First up, we've got X3. It comes in at 3.8 pounds and is IP68 water rated, which means that it's fully waterproof, dustproof. You can submerge this thing and do all the things that you want to do with it, salt water, chlorine, etc. It also has up to 5 days of battery life. I have X3 with an 8.3 yield rating, which means to me, it's a very, very nice knee at yielding. This is my daily driver, so I recognize that when I'm walking around the house, doing things in the kitchen, I'm often yielding it and pushing off of a flex knee, getting out of the car on a flex knee, doing a lot of different things like that. Next up is Navi from Oser. Navi comes in at a flat 4 pounds and is also IP68 water rated. It has a 3-day battery life, but Navi also has a power button so you can turn it on and off. Because of the unique design that Navi has compared to all of the other knees that we are listing in this yielding video, I give this a 9.2 yield rating. Because it has a rotary design, it can support you longer. If you watch some of my other reviews on other channels of Navi, you've seen me even skip a stair going downstairs because it can support you for a longer time. That hydraulic isn't going to let you down because there is no hydraulic in there. And so again, this also makes for those hezi steps and things that I was doing on power knee, you can do on Navi as well. With it being a default swing knee, it's very comfortable. And then when you're actively weighting it, it's actively resisting you. So a very, very nice yielding knee. Next up is Neuro from Brain Robotics. Neuro comes in at 3.53 pounds and has an IP67 water rating. So that means that it's water resistant, dust resistant, but it's not fully waterproof. You can get it wet, maybe submerge it for a little bit, a short amount of time to a certain depth. But this one, you don't want to mess with water too much. The battery life is also 5 days. Its charger is also USB-C, which is very nice, and it has a power button as well to extend that battery life. I give Neuro a 7.5 yield rating, which is pretty good considering that this is the first product that Braden Robotics has brought to market. So this knee has a lot of iterating to come. And I'm excited to see what they do with that because it really does have some unique features like a yielding limiter parameter so you can ease into doing that stance knee flexion and different things like this as you get more comfortable and confident as a user. Next up is the original C-Leg 4 from Autobach. C-Leg 4 weighs 2.7 pounds and does have an IP68 water rating, but it is not at the scale of like X3 would be. This is more of a dust-proof IP68 water rating, so you can submerge it again, more similar to Neuro of up to a certain limit for a certain time, but you really don't want to get too extreme with water. Battery life on Sea Leg is 2 to 3 days. I also give Sea Leg a yield rating of 7.5. Again, this is the original without Sea Leg kind of leading the way. None of these knees would even be here probably. But I feel like Ottobock has taken some of that technology and put it into, the Genium line and also the Kenevo line. So 7.5, but obviously Sea Leg tried and true. Next on the list, we have Quattro from Proteor. Quattro comes in at 3.65 pounds and has an IP rating of 67. This IP rating is specified for fully submersible and everything else. This is where things get kind of tricky because each company comes out with their own stats and their own IP ratings and everything else. So you could look at like Sea Leg, for example, which is IP68, but has a little star next to it because it's not fully waterproof, whereas X3 is IP68 and doesn't have that star, it's fully waterproof. Quattro, on the other hand, is IP67, no little star next to it, but it is fully waterproof as well. So you can get it in the water, submerge it up to, whatever depth you feel comfortable with, and you should be good to go. Quattro's battery life is 2 to 3 days. And I give Quattro just a little bit higher yield rating of 7.6 because its parameters are separated. So on Quattro, you have got a parameter for coming downstairs, for sitting, and for your walking and stance knee flexion. So it allows you to kind of separate those out a little bit more and get a little bit more comfortable if yielding is one of your top priorities. And then not to forget about my favorite category, the power knee category. First up, we've got the power knee from Össur. Power knee comes in at 5.8 pounds and is IP54 water rated. So this one is much more in that kind of dust proof category. You can definitely get it splashed on and things like that. Everything is enclosed. Battery life on power knee is up to 25 hours. It does have a power button as well and swappable batteries. So when I demo this knee, I typically don't run out of power because I just swap the battery to another one, put the old one on a charger, and I'm good to go. Power knee has a yielding rating of 6.3. I feel like because there are these motors and they are actively assisting you in different cases up in ascension, upstairs, going, propelling you forward, different things like that, they should be able to do a little bit more in supporting you as you're coming down things. And I think that this knee could improve on that in the future. And last but not least, we have Intui Pro from Rubicon. Intui Pro comes in at 4.9 pounds and is IP45 water rated. So we're in that same category kind of as the power knee where you don't necessarily want to submerge this in anything. And battery life is anywhere between 16 to 22 hours depending on how much activity you are doing. And this one just has like a magnetic induction charger, so no swappable batteries there. I give Intui Pro a 6.1 yield rating, so just below power knee. Again, I think they're pretty similar in this category and probably could be doing more for the user. And maybe it just hasn't been like at the top of priority list of like, we have to get this perfect, to get this product out and be out for a long time. I know both knees have had a lot of improvements on the time that they've been on the market, but this area is where I would like to see them kind of grow in the future. That's our yielding breakdown. Be sure to check out all of our reviews on these videos. If you're interested in how to mess with the yielding limiter on Neuro, I have a video series for all of that. If you're interested in how to set up your yielding on Quattro, I have a video series for all of that. And all of this video is pulling on reviews on all of these knees. So make sure that you check out my reviews and look out for more content coming in the future. Other than that, we'll see you next time. Thank you.